Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Jason Sutton, aka The Guru, and this is the Golf Guru Show podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, where it's my job to dissect, analyze, break down, and ultimately share with all of you high performers out there the habits, routines, and life lessons of the high performers that I have on this show in the golf business, as well as all other domains in between. On today's episode, I'm very excited to have my friend Michael Gibson. Michael is the head of preferred player promotions at TPI, which is the Titleist Performance Institute, for those of you who don't know, in Oceanside, California, the head of Titleist. You can reach out to him on the Twitter at OneArmProMike. I can't even tell you everything that we talked about on this episode because it's just so wide-ranging and very interesting. What I can tell you is that Michael is one of the most inspiring, thoughtful, mindful individuals that I've ever met in the golfing business. So I'm very excited to bring you guys this conversation. So without further delay, let's get to my conversation with Michael Gibson. Enjoy.
About that. Here we go.
No problem, man. So Michael, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. How are we doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
You got it. I know we've been trying to get together for a while, and I really appreciate you taking the time. And I'll give everybody sort of the context of, leading off how we met and, give them a little bit of lineage of our relationship here. Then I'll give it to you to kind of take us back a little bit about your career. But I just recently got back from TPI, which is where you work, and had just an unbelievable experience. And you were my host, and it was such a great day that I was excited really when I got back. One, the fact that I'm associated with such a great company like Titleist, but two, that I got a new relationship with an unbelievable individual like yourself. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the stuff that you did for me that day, and really sort of got us thinking about, our careers. And, as we had dinner that evening, we started talking about, how we both kind of came to get to where we are today. And it was just really interesting, your whole path, career, and then really just your whole life. So if you could just take us back to maybe even your childhood and just sort of how you started in sports and in golf, and see where that goes. And then we'll sort of delve into some different areas. But if you could just start there, that would be great.
Cool, man. Hey, I have to thank you too for having me. And your trip was no accident. We picked a really solid candidate to come out and visit us, and we consider you then you were a VIP guest. Now you're a friend. So I do appreciate like-minded folks also, and we did share some pretty cool times. But it's not that complicated. I grew up in Boston with in a family of 7 boys, so it was sports were, growing up in a great sports city, it was kind of easy to be attached to one sport or another. But with 6 brothers, we played everything. You had to be reasonably good at some things, but you're really kind of attached to 1 or 2 sports that you kind of basically sandlotted up at least through high school, and tried to figure out a way that you basically got as much as you could out of it. So playing sports was kind of fun. But when I was 17, I was going to an all boys Catholic school. And one summer in between my junior and senior year, I was in a boating accident, and I got run over by the propeller of our ski boat. And so I call that my longest day for obvious reasons, and
right.
The irony is my rehab was, I didn't know any better. I just thought you're supposed to kind of get over it and move on. And that's kind of the attitude I took with it, and got me into adulthood to the point where any task I had really didn't seem that taxing or actually difficult. There were obviously normal challenges. There weren't any books written about a lot of stuff I was trying to do. But so I took up cycling as a form of trying to feel normal, if that's a right way of putting it. There was something about pedaling and getting the wind in my face, and I love nothing more than going fast because that kind of put everything in my rearview mirror. So it was a great perspective for me. And so that
Yeah,
was
no,
kind
I
of,
know that. I know that was one of the commonalities we had as far as endurance,
yeah.
trying to be a pseudo endurance athlete as I'm doing it, trying to do marathons, and now you're trying to do triathlons. So is that where it kind of started? Do you think that really helped you sort of cope with that sort of injury? I guess.
Yeah, it kind of made me forget, that I was disabled. And then I went to work for a hotel chain in Boston, and I met a guy who his name is Bill Kondaxis. He often talked about getting back to. He played college golf, but getting back in the golf business, and I didn't really know what that meant. I mean, and then went back and went through the apprentice program, and left to a hotel business, and then we were roommates, and I had this. I just wanted to hang out with the guy, at work because it was kind of what a beautiful spot he was working at. So I just went when no one was around, and I'd hit balls, and it was awful. I mean, I didn't want anybody to watch me. I mean, it really was one of the hardest things I'd ever tried to do. And this is a long time ago, so I didn't really have any access to Google or anything.
Right.
And I looked around for books, and I really didn't find anything that was extremely helpful. So I just kind of continued to do it with the help of Billy. And then I hit like that one shot. I know everybody that listens to anything golf related, and I know you do. You get what I'm about to tell you, but I hit that one shot where it felt right, it sounded right, it got up in the air, and it gave me it's such a thrill that I kind of kept going. And then it would show up every once in a while to the point where I really became addicted to trying to find that experience again, kind of like when I was on the bike and I'm going at a downhill grade, and I get the wind in my face, and it didn't seem like it was work. This is what I was kind of, trying to go after from my as being an adult, trying to figure out athletics. So, I kind of came by it honestly just by going out and trying it.
So did you start? I know we talked about this at dinner. Did you start right-handed, or did you play left-handed, sort of backhanded with your right arm?
Well, growing up playing multiple sports as a kid, I did play some golf, and I played it right-handed, and I didn't forehanded. Sorry, I didn't really know any better. I tried a couple shots backhanded, but I just felt some an ease and motion and power that I can get with my right hand swinging forehand, like I was because I could throw right-handed, and I thought it was a similar motion. So I kind of stayed with that.
Yeah, we've got a guy at the club that does the same thing I was telling you about, and he's incredible. And he plays right-handed, and guy can actually flush it. Guy's like a single-digit handicapper. So I think that's probably the best way to go.
Yeah, I played. Fast forward a few years, I played in the World One Arm Championships, and it was over. They're usually overseas, and played at Carnoustie in England and a few places with guys. And it's usually about 80 one-arm guys, and you can only have one hand on the club. You can't use prosthetic in this particular group. And it was usually about 40 guys that played what we call backhanded and 40 that played forehanded. And the funny thing is, at the end, when it came down to two guys playing match play, it was usually a forehander against a backhander. And it was always,
Interesting.
yeah. So there was really no right or wrong to it. It was just comfort more than anything else.
Right.
But it was cool to just kind of explore that a little bit. And then I became, listen, when I say quite good, I mean, I don't, it's not professional in an aspect or in ability, but I could go play golf. And I think to me, trying to level the playing field to make me feel somewhat normal. I would play with guys and they go, damn, I'm going to go cut my damn arm off and go play golf. I got pretty good at it to where I would have people come up to me and say, hey, you know what? I don't know if you're a teacher, what you do in life, but my father had a stroke and he's down to one arm, and he could really use some tips, So I kind of took that as an opportunity, and in '89, I joined the PGA apprentice program and got involved in wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to basically I had a calling. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was going to look like. What it was going to sound like. But, Billy was, he encouraged me to go out and do, help people. And he didn't know either. He knew by teaching me that there was something going on, And
Right.
so,
yeah, he saw that passion of you being able to help other people. And I think you told me that story at dinner about him just saying, "Hey, you need to go do this," and he inspired you, right?
he inspired me. And then I joined, but the funny thing is that I didn't know how to package what I knew. And so his advice was to go take some lessons from people other than him, obviously. And so he hooked me up with a guy in Carmel, a guy by the name of Ben Doyle. And for those who know Ben or have ever heard of Ben, will kind of get what I'm about to tell you. But, so I show up.
Original golfing machine.
So I show up,
yeah.
and it was early. I'm the only one in the driving range, and I'm kind of warming up a little bit. And he shows up with this golf cart that has stuff hanging all over it. I'm like, oh my God, is this a maintenance guy? Who is this guy? Because I'd never met him. And then he jumps out of the cart, and he comes over and he shakes my hand with this weird hand gesture. And he goes, that my friend is lag. Remember lag. And I said, oh, okay, great. Thank you. And so I hit balls for 2 hours. I'm literally about to faint. I mean, he was very knowledgeable. There's a lot of mechanics going on. And then he said, hey, listen, Mike, at the end, when you go pay for your lesson, buy the book. It's right next to the cash register. I go, okay. So I didn't know any better. I walk in and I see this yellow book, and I bought it, and I didn't think much about it. And then as I'm driving home, it was in the right side it was on the passenger seat. I'm driving home from Monterey to San Jose, and I look over it, and it says a golf machine, and it had all these geographic diagrams on the front of it. And I got to tell you, I was thinking about what I was going to get into when I'm trying to find my identity in golf. And I go, right. I was so confused. I literally, his lesson probably made less sense as I got closer to home. And so I go home, and Billy's there. He's my roommate at the time. He says, so how'd that go? And I go, dude, I have no idea. I mean, I had dinner. I started looking at this book, and I read a couple chapters, and I went in and I asked Bill, I go, Bill, why did you send me to him? I mean, that probably works for some golf professionals, but that is so not my character. And he said, don't worry. He goes, you're going to take, and you can't make this up. He says, I'm going to send you to another guy. His name is Freddie. He's down in Monterey, and he's going to give you another perspective on teaching. And Shoemaker's was the guy that I basically, besides Billy, was the guy that basically kind of saved me. And 2-hour lessons sitting on a picnic table. I think he hit like 8 shots, one-handed, four-handed, and flushed all 8 of them. And I think I hit one, in the 2 hours. But when I left, and I'm not afraid to say this because I'm an emotional guy anyway, but I kind of wept driving home. I got to the point where I go, you know what? I think I really can do this now. I feel like Freddie shared something with me that was already there. I didn't know how to dig it out. Kind of like, going back to, I always reference cycling because it kind of leveled the playing field. He leveled the playing field where Billy gave me the platform, Freddie gave me the microphone, and then the rest was up to me.
So how many clubs did you throw during that lesson?
What's funny? I didn't. Thank you for asking me. I didn't throw any that day because Billy asked me the same thing. He's trying to, he knew I was going to walk out of there feeling great about my lesson. And he asked me, he goes, so how many clubs? I go, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, I found, and then I actually did some coaching with Freddie. He liked me enough to invite me to some coaches clinics. And I did some really cool clinics with him and Billy and those guys. And I understood the path drill with throwing clubs. So I've thrown thousands of clubs over the years. So yeah, I get it.
But that was his style. So for people that don't know, and I'm sure a lot of the teachers listening probably know who Freddie Shoemaker is. Brilliant guy, but his philosophy was sort of a sidearm throw and get people to actually release golf clubs up into the range.
Yeah, he had a barrel. I was on the range with him one day, and I saw this barrel on the range that had probably 50 to 100 old, rusty, old, beat up golf clubs, and that was his. That was one of the drills. And I've almost killed people by having people throw clubs. It's just not that. It's not easy. It's not as easy as it sounds, obviously. But yeah, Freddie was the guy that kind of gave. Well, I looked at it and I said this to you, and I know you get this because you're a guy that I put a lot of respect in golf and everything, and it kind of, we are a little bit of everybody we've ever had a great conversation with. Sometimes, it's like when people look at who's I mean, we are a mixture of everything, and so I'm a good listener. I like to listen, and as a result of it, I walk off with some great materials over the years. I've worked with some great golf pros. The Harmons, and there's so many thousands of people that I've had great golf conversations with that I think it's made me who I am today, and all of us can feel the same way about different conversations we've had with golfers.
100%. And I think that was if I remember correctly at dinner, that was sort of the question that I asked you that spurred all the great stories, which was, who were the most influential mentors in your life? And I think you mentioned Billy, and then you mentioned some of the Harmons. So tap into that a little bit and tell us some of the things. I know you got some great stories about teaching with the Harmons, and then how that led you into your next career change.
Well, when I worked at Hagen Oaks in Sacramento is where I got married. I married a California girl, moved up to Sacramento, and I, my wife Suzanne, she wanted to start a family right away. Which, listen, I'm cool with that. I have six brothers. I'm all about family, And so I felt like we're in Hagen Oaks up in Sacramento. I'm going to start a family with Suzanne. I'm going to teach there. I really enjoyed working for Ken Morton, who was brilliant. And there were 15 teaching pros there. And so we had 15 different philosophies. So it was weird how it didn't take people long to like my style. So I was a pretty busy guy for 5 years while I was there. And then my rep at the time was, and he's now our CEO, believe it or not, is David Marr. David he gave me opportunities to play Titleist, fit Titleist, be part of the family. He introduced me to employment at Titleist, and that was in '98. And I did that for 5 years. I basically covered Maine to Miami for 5 years. And I traveled all over that coast and everywhere else in the United States, to the point where, I actually couldn't really see myself doing it anymore, because my wife, we had 2 kids. I just wanted to be home with my family, but I was gone all the time, about 150 overnights a year. So I basically kind of decided that I would kind of hang it up, my career at Titleist, and then go back to teaching, which I worked with the Harmon Club Boston, and I got to work with the likes of Tom Kavicki and Sean Hester and Billy Craig and Dick Harmon, and do things that I never thought possible. And I really enjoyed what I was doing. I had a huge clientele. I was busy. I did about 1,100 hours of lessons a year, and it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about myself, But so there were too many people to hang. And now I'm an old guy now. But I look at it as, there are so many people that I can give credit to. I really wish I would have written their names down with an email address and a phone number, because I would love to call them all and say, hey, you know what, dude, thank you, because I am I am who I am because of people like you. And so then I kept getting calls from Dave and Mary Lou Bone, at Titleist, saying, hey, I've got this cool project I want you to do. So I kept my foot in the door. And then I was asked to come back in and start the golf ball education and golf ball fitting program with them in 2010, which I was delighted. I think felt like I missed being with them, being work for Titleist again. So I was delighted to have another shot at something that I loved. And I did that for 5 years before coming out to TPI and running the staff program from out there.
Yeah. So it kind of leads me into, our, uh, the way we met. And I actually called our, good friend DeWitt, today and said, what can I ask Gibby?
Uh-oh.
And he
Yeah.
right. So, because I told him having you on the show, and he's like, "Oh, that's great." He was just nothing but complimentary, obviously, of your passion and your energy. And I said, "Yeah, the guy's just like a Energizer bunny. It's just you could spend 3 days and not go to sleep, hanging out with this guy." And he goes, "Yeah." So the thing that I'm curious about, and this I think would help maybe teaching professionals, but also golf professionals out there, is the experience that you provided for me as a VIP or a staffer when I came to see you. Tell us a little bit about that and how that's sort of crafted. Because obviously the facility is fantastic, but just the customer service. The whole thing with you show up and you got your own locker and you got all the swag and everything was just so well done. Tell us a little bit about what you've learned as far as just the experience and how you provide that.
Great question. And the hard part for a company like a Titleist and Cushnet is that in the Titleist side of it, we have over 3,000 loyal staff partners. Guys that sign an agreement to play our clubs, and we are so honored to have those individuals in our farm. We wanted to be able to figure out ways to enhance their experience as partners because they're out there on the front lines with our customers every day. And we want to make sure that we're doing our part because we feel like you guys are doing your part. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to start, we try to think about taking care of our staffers 365 days a year, but there's only so many of us to go around to really be on the ground floor with our club pros. So we started a VIP program where we invite of the 3,500 or so, we invite 100 of them out a year, all expenses paid. We try to pick a time when they can get away for a few days and really kind of embrace our services that we offer on an everyday basis. We're really proud of how we put golf clubs together. We're proud of how we fit them. We're proud of the people that we hire that work behind the counter and the receptionists, the people in customer service. We feel that this is a great opportunity to share who we are to people that may not know us. But I don't want you to ever underestimate that, the person. We feel honored and humbled by you and you guys. The club professional, to us, we would be nothing without our green grass partners. And so when they asked me if I wanted to do this, my only fear was moving my wife and my kids from Boston to California. And I was hoping that they would support me because I thought I'm kind of meant for this. They call me the cruise director, or as Glenn called me today, Julie
Right.
from the Love Boat. I have think about it. I have the greatest job. You think you had fun? I had as much fun as you did getting to know you and inviting somebody out that I really had to. Basically, you were a staff guy on paper to me until then, although a great partner, until I got to see you come out and walk you through the services and then, have a beer and just chat and see how things were going to go from there. I'm trying to create, friendships, because at the end of the day, that's really all we got. We have our product, but it's only as good as our people.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and it was phenomenal. I told DeWitt, I said it's one of the top 5 days of my golfing career, just because I just felt wanted and felt like hey, they appreciate me, and it just made me even more. I say more loyal. I was already loyal, but it was more of a okay, I'm really where I should be with the right company and the right staff, and I'm excited to sort of share that. And you introduced me to the marketing guy, and we're going to do some stuff and I've got some big plans that I haven't shared with anybody yet coming down the pipe here in the next couple of months that I think is going to help Titleist as well. So I'm just really excited to be a part of it. So let's transition a little bit. I know because I want to get back into your teaching a little bit because I think you haven't. I think you're being modest. You're being modest in the fact that somebody that gives that many golf lessons is definitely doing something right, and you've been exposed to so many incredible coaches out there. So give us a little bit of background of, what you think would probably help somebody. Let's preface it this way. Let's say, what advice would you give let's say a passionate young professional or even like a PGM student or coach that wants to get into teaching, and give us a little background about what you learned, with the Harmons.
Well, it's funny. I'm honored that you would ask me that. It makes me feel like I have accomplished something in my life, and that's all I could ever ask for. Because at the end of the day, it's you know what I mean. I know you get that same thing too.
Oh, sure.
And my big deal, and I talk to golf professionals all the time, is that most of us don't listen enough. I found that the hardest thing to do early on. I had my plan in place, and it's not the right way of doing it. My plan was in place before I even met the individual, because I would basically teach what I was currently working on myself. I felt very confident in it. Like if I could only work on bones, I wouldn't be working on the heart, as a doctor. But wouldn't it be great if you were well-rounded and you can cover it all? So I think a lot of it is like, learning as much as you can. Education is a real big part of it. You can't read enough, but don't lock yourself into one variable. Like, read as much as you can. I think one of the coolest books I ever read was Golf in the Kingdom by Michael Murphy. It had little to do with angles and lag and where your feet are, or whatever. It had everything to do with unlocking unlimited possibilities. And we need to do that with our students. We need to look at this individual and say, hey, listen, they're not perfect. They're coming for help. Same thing we do with the golf equipment. Listen, they're not showing up on our tee if they're perfect. They're broken a little bit. We need to find out how we can fix it. And it usually is right there in front of us. And we don't have to make stuff up. So listening, observing, and kind of starting your plan once you kind of understand what they need. As Glenn Mahler, I work with Glenn, I call him the professor at work. And he calls like looking at the bag forensics. He's basically trying to figure out what's broken. How can I make this thing better? And that's what we have to do with the golf swing. We have to look at individuals and say, we're not going to cookie cutter my information to assume that what I'm going to give them, what I learned yesterday, is going to work for somebody today. So I think having I'm trying to remember who it was that I used to teach with him, and he used to say, I'm going to my tool bag right now. And it's like, freaking right. Cool way of looking at it, like so I look at golf professionals. It's a tough job because you almost hang on every shot. It's like I did this experiment one time with a junior who was like 8 years old, and the parents thought he was going to be the next great Tiger Woods. But so, I mean, I watched him hit balls into a net. It was like 15 degrees outside, and I didn't roll the door open. So I was at the Harmon Club, and I watched him hit shots, and he was kind of looking back at me like I was ready for a comment. And so I just ran video for a little V1, and I just didn't say anything. And then he finally hit this one shot like high up on the net, and you can kind of tell he hit it good. And then I rolled back that swing only, and I only played that swing to him. And I showed him how possible it was. What he did to create that great golf shot was right there. I didn't say one word to the kid. I almost felt like at the end of the lesson, his mom was saying, well, geez, you didn't really talk to my kid. Like, I'm going to pay you for this lesson. I go, listen, I hope he learned that it's not about words, it's about actions. And he did it all by himself. I just
100%. Yeah, we talk about that all the time. For sure. It's getting as we've talked about on the last few podcasts, is you don't get paid for how many words you say. You get paid for the results and the information you impart to the individual. And that's brilliant advice.
I remember my early lessons. I talked to him, I'm blue in the face, and I get nothing out of it. So it's like, or other lessons. I tell you what I did learn from the Harmons and really good teachers is that you could almost give them something to do and then walk away. We don't need to sit there and coach them to heal. We need to let them heal on their own. We just got to give them a Band-Aid to get them through the next step. So when you see them again, it's important. I remember we used to talk to parents when they bring juniors to us, and they'd say, listen, if your son or daughter does not work on with the information I give them, if they don't practice between now and the next lesson, I'm going to not give them a lesson, but I'm going to probably charge you for it when they show back up. It'll be obvious whether they got it or not. It's a kind of an arrogant way of looking at it, but listen, I don't want to, shouldn't waste my time. I can only get to so many people. I wanted to have a different student every hour of every day. I didn't want to have the same guy coming back every week teaching them the same thing. So that's a trap that golf professionals can get into. But sometimes it's a financial thing. It's a comfort thing. But I was like, I want to meet somebody new and shake someone new their hand every day. Somebody new I can inspire to get better. But listening is a big part of it. Trying to forensic them and into figuring out what's broken is important too.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice. So what would you say they should ignore? What are you hearing out there that, or if somebody said, if somebody comes to you, young guy says, "Hey, give me some advice. I'm looking to get in the teaching game or just the golf business in general." It's like, what's some of the things that maybe they shouldn't pay attention
That's
to?
a tough one because I always operate from the point of positiveness because I know the attitude piece is extremely important. But I don't know if there's any one thing. I mean, let me pass it back at you because listen, you're the golf guru. I mean, I always get caught up in guys that want to kind of get too far too fast kind of thing. That's my biggest warning to anybody that gets into the business is that take your time, man. I mean, I've been in golf for 30 years now. Yeah. I'm glad I took my time. I wish I had more time. I look at,
I think that patience is huge. I mean, that's one of the biggest things we talked about is patience. And like you said, not trying to, I would say don't fall into the trap of trying to get notoriety or I guess not famous, but I mean, just well known too quickly. Right. So just kind of get a mentor that's going to care for you and learn as much as you can and just keep working on your skills. And then the rest of it will kind of work out.
I agree with you. And it's like patience is probably the big key. And, like I don't have many regrets when it comes to golf. I look back and all the things I've done, and Billy and I used to always chat and say, well, we wish I could return every dollar of my first year's lessons because I didn't know anything.
Yeah, but everybody's like that.
Yeah, but they didn't know it. I was the only one that knew that. So I kept the money.
Right. That's right.
Oh boy. Yeah. So no, that's a great question. I always look at, if one thing I can tell people is that golf is a great business and we need everybody to do the best they can. There's a lot of people that need help. We don't want to see people quit because they weren't given the right opportunities, the right instruction, the right equipment, the right nutrition. It's a big responsibility for us to take care of these golfers. Without them, we don't have a livelihood. We have to figure out something to do. I wouldn't want to do anything else. Would you?
No, definitely not. I don't know what the heck I would do. And that's actually one of the questions that I had was if you weren't doing it, if you weren't, I just had somebody come in and interrupt me. If you weren't doing your job that you're doing now, like what would you do? Like for me, I would be a fly fisherman, like guide or something.
I'm with you.
I would have my own fishing show. I would definitely be probably on TV or trying to teach something else.
Why can't you do fishing. Both? I mean, come on, man. They're both very similar, fishing and golfing, right?
Yeah. So what do you think you would be?
I don't know. I do tell you I'd be retired probably. I could say that honestly right now. I don't know. I tell you the job that I probably respect probably more than anything else in my business that I probably wouldn't be great at, unfortunately, but I would love to give it a shot is like you talked about DeWitt today. DeWitt to me is like he is the reps rep, I don't care what company you work for. Once you run into someone that gives that much of his life to golf, it's a guy like DeWitt. I would probably like to be in the sales part of it because I think I could sell stuff that I know a lot about product, I'm so good at explaining what's cause and
Right.
effect, or what I like to call the what and the why. It's so much easier knowing what I know to probably sell stuff. But I don't know. I'll leave that to people that are really salesy. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision now. I'm probably 10 years away from literally retiring, but I did receive my first, because I'm a bass fisherman.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
pretty good at it, but I don't know how to fly fish. A friend of mine sent me my first fly fishing reel, so I'm gonna I'm gonna take some lessons. I'm gonna have to find a rod, but I'm gonna take some lessons. I'm gonna figure out how to toss that sucker, and my retirement's gonna be, there's gonna be some fly fishing in it.
When you make it back out east, then we'll definitely have to do a trip. Well, I can teach. I can teach that too. I'm like a +2 fly fisherman, so
Awesome,
that's
awesome.
that
I'm
would
so
be
happy to hear
so
that.
much fun. All right, cool.
Yeah, you can count on it.
All right, so let me switch gears a little bit.
All
We'll
right,
get
do
into
it.
some rapid
Absolutely.
fire questions here,
No
just kind of
worries.
off the wall. So, what is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love?
I'm a it's I don't know if it's unusual, but being the oldest of seven boys, I am such a creature of habit. I put my left leg goes in my pants first. I'm not a type A guy because I'm very calm, but I am kind of a boss around the house. I have six brothers. I'm a creature of habit, and I don't like it when things don't go well. Like if we were to go on a trip, I'm at the door and I have the door open. And I said, let's go. And I'm the first guy in the car. It drives my daughter crazy because I'm in the car backed out of the garage and waiting for her just about every morning, even though she shows up right on the minute because she knows it would make me crazy. So I guess
Right.
maybe I should, where I'm very patient at work. I'm not as patient as an adult at home as a parent, but I'm pretty tough on my kids. I'm fair, but it's kind of, I probably got off a little bit on. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I'm pretty I'm
No, it's
pretty
good.
set in my ways, and I think we all get there when we get older. I hope it's not just me.
Yeah. You're unusually. Yeah, it's. I'm getting the same way. It's just
Yeah.
you get your little routines and yeah. So like I'm always curious about like morning routines. Is
Oh
there
yeah.
something that you do every
Oh
morning
yeah.
to kind
So
of
I
get your day
do.
going?
I make we make this. My wife and I, we make the same oatmeal. I put a little bit of, and this sounds weird, but I put a little bit of syrup, and I load with blueberries. That's in a cup of coffee. I start my day. My day is not good. I mean, I kid you not. If I reach in the thing and there's no Keurig cup for me, I start to panic a little bit. I'm like, "Where's the net? I'm going to fall off this. I'm going to fall off this
Oh
rope." I
no.
mean, I just seriously coffee, and I love. I'm an addict, but coffee and oatmeal to me. And once I get going, once I do that, I can go off on any tangent. And when I cycle, I do long distance stuff. I have to watch what I eat, so it's really kind of the thing that fuels my engine, so to speak.
Yeah, the protein get you going. Yeah, we talked about we've both lost a
Woo!
little
I
lbs here in the
lost a
last few
lot, but
months, so
yeah,
it's
thank you. I feel
looking
better.
good, and fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so here's the next one. Describe, and I know we've sort of talked about a little bit of this, but this let's make this other than maybe your boating accident. Describe a failure that has set you up for later success, and do you have like a favorite
I don't know
failure?
if it's yeah.
Like maybe it could be
Yeah, well,
career or
it's not
whatever.
a favorite. There are really, I don't know if there's ever like it's like an oxymoron when you put those two words together theoretically, but I think if I could do, if I could do my third career, because I rushed through a couple of them. If I could do my third career is like my second or my first career. If I had a little bit, like I said it earlier, I wish I had more time in golf. There's so many things I want to do and so many things I want to see. I wish I would have done golf earlier. I started golf a little late in life after, I did some, believe it or not, I spent a year, I traveled with the Grateful Dead for a year. I wouldn't, now that exclude, I would not change that.
Oh,
I mean, I won't
we
change
need to get
that.
into that.
But I mean, just because I'm a music fan and Billy and I mean, I really was a music junkie. I still am a little bit, but I think if I would have started golf earlier, I mean, I kind of hummed it. I didn't know what I was going to do with my career, and as an adult, I was kind of panicking a little bit. So when I got into golf, I'm glad I did it when I did it. Wish I was younger.
When's the last time you learned a new skill? This is
Well,
a new one for me. Have you learned, is it because I know you've been cycling, but is there anything you've learned new
yeah,
that you could sort of be,
I'm a
you became
swimmer
the
now
beginner again?
because the
Oh,
triathlon
wow.
you've got to do. Did a half, and I did a partial of a half, and I had to do 1.2 miles in the ocean. And when they asked me, I said, "There's like no way." I mean, if I could swim 1.2 miles in a pool, yeah, I might be able to. I feel confident about it. But open water, say I lost my arm in a boating accident. So when I practiced, so I did sign on to do it, and I practiced in the ocean where there are high waves just to get out, and had to learn how to dolphin under waves to get out. I had literally the first time I did it, I had like a little panic attack, and I didn't know where it was coming from because I had trained people with me. You know, these are good swimmers. And one guy that swam with me, Miles O'Brien's kid, who was one of my guys that swam with me, is a Navy rescue guy, you know. So he looked at me like, "Are you good?" And I go, "No, I can." And he knew it wasn't physical; it had to be something going on, you know. So when I got back into shore, he literally had to help me because the waves had kind of beat me down a little bit. I sat there. They went back out, and I sat there and go, I know where that's coming from because this anxiety. I mean, my heart is racing. It's not about fear of water. It's about what happened. What happened to me was traumatic, and you forget most of it. So then starting to swim and learning to swim opened up a whole new deal for me. I love swimming now. I can't wait. I'm not afraid. Can I do a mile in the water now? Yeah, I can do it. Never could have done it before. So that's only this year I've done that.
That's
So
incredible.
that's probably been the most fun.
Yeah. Anything's possible, right? Yeah. That's just
Yeah,
amazing. So and you had a good coach, right? So now you became the student. So yeah, that experience, I think, helps you to be a better mentor, or a better
and he was good.
teacher,
He
or better
listened
at
to
your
me.
job.
It's like golf. He wanted to find out what was it. What did I need? Where was this coming? Where was this coming from? What do I need to work on? Because I have a weak left ankle too. So I mean, I had some issues, kind of like on stamina in the water. But so did I. Did the same. I had the same problems when I was cycling and early on. You just get past it.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So I think you mentioned one book, but do you have books that you have often either recommended or gifted, or have had, let's say, influence in your life or your career the most? And
Well,
what would those be?
I'm going to give
Give me
you
a
a
book
list,
list.
and I'm sure
I
this
know you're
this
a
book
reader.
is on everybody's list, and I have to dig it out because I want to make sure I don't miss any of it. But Freddie Shoemaker wrote two books. One of them was Extraordinary Golf, and the other one was Extraordinary Putting. Easy
Right.
reads. I mean, if you buy it, and I hope Freddie's not listening or hears this going to be mad at me. It's a bathroom book for me because you can go through some excerpts and you can go through some quality stuff when you have time to do it. But I think Harvey Penick, and again, listen,
Right.
I'm not a very technical guy. Harvey was the guy that I quoted probably more than anybody. So like the Little Red Book and the Little Green Book and things like that kind of helped me and the reason I picked the Little Red Book is one that came just shouted at me was that I probably recommended that book to more golfers, beginner golfers, than anything. And the Little Green, I think.
What what are what are some of
Oh,
the
it's
excerpts that you
it's a
remember?
grabber.
That
Like
was a
one of
I
his
think it's a
comments would be
fantastic book
someone.
too.
I think it might have been Kite or somebody came and said, I'm struggling getting the ball to the hole. And Harvey's comment was, well, why don't you just hit the ball harder? I mean, really? Okay. but it makes sense. I mean, I always look at it as the answer is so simple sometimes. We can make it golf machine, that works. I mean, I get the angles, but I think if we make it simple, people retain it better. I mean,
Yeah.
I always look at it if I took physics in college and it was related around the golf ball flying in the air, I would have got an A. but it wasn't about that. It was about all this other stuff, you know? So I think we got to make it something interesting and fun. And those books like Extraordinary Golf to me was just amazing. And what Michael Murphy's Golf in the Kingdom is just, I think everybody should read that. That's just kind of like, wake up, man. The golf is, there's so many possibilities. Just don't run past them, you know? Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Pay attention. What any like personal development books, motivation, business books that jump out at you that you've read that have helped you?
It's funny you said
your
that,
new position.
I
now,
don't know if you ever read like the 1 Minute Manager. Oh yeah, stuff like that, because I have an opinion. I'm pretty opinionated about things, but if I go into a long dissertation on how something should be done, I bore myself. So I'm just trying to do everything and try to be efficient. And as a guy with one arm, I live for efficiency. I look for the doorknob before I get to it. I'm thinking, how am I going to get through the door? It's about how do I do things? And when I brush my teeth in the morning with my 2-minute timer and my toothbrush, I'm trying to race it. I'm trying to, the guy that tells me, hey, I've got the best toothbrush and it's only going to take you 15 seconds. I'm buying that thing, so, I think efficiency. So anything, I'm looking for the 30, I'm looking for the 30-second manager right now. If anybody's written that book, send it to me, please.
Yeah. Have you read The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss?
I need that one. I need the 4-day work week is my big
4-Hour
push now.
Chef. He's got a bunch of them. Yeah, it's funny. It got me thinking, about my day with you, and when you dropped me off at the hotel. I remember there was a steakhouse on property, and you were like, you need to go to the steakhouse and have a glass of wine and go find Chef Dave. Right. Dave. And so I'm like, okay, there's gotta be a reason for this. Right. So, I go in there, and it was just like, it was definitely meant to be, because here he comes walking out, and I just had enough wine in me. It was my birthday. So to like be bold enough to like go up and talk to him and go, hey, Michael said I need to come talk to you. And he goes, well, who are you? And I told him who I was. And then we had I gave him a 2-hour putting lesson in the bar. That guy was freaking, he loves golf so much. And so now we've been on the phone. He's like, follow me on Instagram. So I'm definitely going to get him on the podcast.
He's everybody's friend. That guy's a rock star, he's a golf industry guy. He's at the West Steakhouse in the Mecca of all the other companies here. And everybody knows him. Everybody's trying to get him to play their clubs. But he's just a super nice guy. And I sense him, because the West, the hotel where you're staying, that's where most of our guys stay, and they love going over there. But he always has something nice to say about everything. But he's a great chef. I want to be that good. I would like to be that good of a teacher in golf. He's
fantastic.
That good.
Yeah, it was just really cool. So we're going to be friends, I think, for a long time, and he's got that passion for golf, and so it's eventually we'll meet up, and I'm definitely going to have
I'll be tuning in for that one.
Talk to
as well.
All right, so for those of you that have heard the podcast, this is one of my favorite questions: is if you had to get one message to the world, sort of via, say, a mythical billboard or the internet, or what I say, like a myth, like a skywriter, what message would that be? It could be a quote, it could be a saying.
Well, I have
what's
two.
your life mantra?
One of them is a friendly one, and the other one is the not so friendly one. And I mean that out of complete sincerity, because I get a lot of people asking me the same question in my life. And the first one is like, be nice. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. It's amazing how hard people make it to be nice. Right. And that's one of my big deals, And the other ones, and it's the hard one, is like, kind of get over it sometimes, like we get stuck in we get stuck in a corner and we don't know how to get out of our own way, you know? So if you could be nice, and then when you have a bad day, kind of get over it, it just makes life so much easier, man.
That's fantastic. Michael, before we wrap up, one, I can't thank you enough for your time, and two, how can people reach out and say thank you? I mean, I know you're not huge on social media, but if there's any, are you on
I am on
Twitter, or are
Twitter.
you on
It's
Instagram
One
or
Arm
anything where they
Pro.
could reach out and say thanks?
One
Oh,
Arm Pro.
all
And you know
right.
what?
I didn't
The
even
one
know
is a
that.
number. Not I don't spell it out, but that could
Awesome.
mean I used to have that on a license plate, and people would pull up next to me and they go,
Okay.
"What does that mean?" You know, they don't notice. They don't know I have one arm, so I had to. I don't have that on my car anymore. But yeah, so no, that's my handle or whatever you want to call it on Twitter, and I'm happy to. Yeah, come on, bring it on. And thank you. Yeah, thank you.
That's fantastic. So, yeah. Well, I mean, is there anything else that you want to share? Anything that I haven't asked you
Yeah, I don't
that
ever
we can
make
cover? I
you know,
mean,
the
it could
cool
be
thing
about
about me, and you
Titleist
know
or
this about
about
it's never
anything.
about the commercial, but I always look at golf as hard, and most of the people in this audience are probably in the business, and they already know this, but you got to help people. You got to make them feel better about what they do, and golf is a hard deal. If you can make them feel a little bit better tomorrow than it was today, then you've got them. You've got them for the rest of your life, literally. And it's you got to take your time. You got to say hi. You got to smell the roses along the way. And I love simple-minded golf. I don't. That's a wrong way of putting it, but like-minded is probably the best way to look at it. Like-minded people are fun to be around because you have so much in common.
Right.
And thank you, by the way. I know people probably don't give you enough kudos too, but you never stop, man. You're constantly talking about the rabbit. You know, you never stop. Keep doing what you're doing, man, and I'm going to keep tuning in.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Guru here. That was so fantastic. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate Michael coming on the show and taking the time out of his busy day out there at TPI. Don't be afraid to reach out to Michael at One Arm Pro Mike on the Twitter, and also tweet me your number one takeaway from this episode at Golf Guru TV. There were so many nuggets that he threw our way, really life lessons and just stories of perseverance, and it's so awesome to meet a guy like that. It's so inspiring, and just such a great guy. So I really appreciate you guys checking out the podcast. Keep the downloads coming. I'm just overwhelmed and grateful by the response. And don't forget to send in your questions for #Guru Friday. You can do that by emailing me at golfgurushow@gmail.com, and I will get to your questions on this Friday's episode. But until then, throw me an iTunes review. I'm still looking for a review. I think you have to do some kind of crazy name in order for it to take it. I'm not really sure of the rules. I'm just listening to some other podcasts and they keep saying that. So love to get a review. That'd be really cool. Throw me a rating. Throw me a 5-star. Throw me a 1. Whatever you think. Doing my best here, folks. So really enjoying doing this, and thanks so much for all the tweets, and thanks so much for all the text messages from my friends out there that are enjoying the content. So until next time, as I always say, study, practice, teach, and then pass it on. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.